Let's fix it like that. All right. What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. So today we're going to be talking about how to find cash buyers and filter them and why that's important. I've gone over this in a couple of my other videos, but I figured we'll do it live, answer questions along the way, and see what happens. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about how my day started. So today I woke up, it's like super windy here for some reason. We have 60-mile-an-hour gusts, and for those who don't know, we don't really get wind around here, and so it's pretty annoying. One, because I have a greenhouse that I bought for like $80, and it's made out of like these thin PVC pipes, and so that started falling apart, and my plant that I had on top shelf of that greenhouse, it fell over and broke. So I had a Meyer lemon tree that I'm growing, and I'm trying to get some lemons out of it obviously in the future, and this wind just knocked this clay pot over and it broke it. So I had to fix that, and then I had to tie the greenhouse down, and right after I got done that, I headed to my office, which I'm at now. And on my way to my office, walking to the door, I found somebody passed out on the stairs of one building, and I think they OD'd. So I had to call somebody to get them, and now here we are. So it's been an interesting Friday so far, and this will be an interesting video, I hope. Informative video that'll help you, figure out this part of your business that's very important, because especially when you're getting into wholesaling and your whole purpose is to primarily wholesale to get some money for your business to maybe buy later down the road, because there's a lot more on the line in that reason. You don't want to have the seller in a situation where you told them you're going to buy this property, and because you didn't filter your buyer, now they're going to lose this property because of foreclosure, tax auction, whatever it may be, all because you didn't know or you didn't think about filtering your buyer. Because we can do everything we can at the end of the day, but ultimately our buyer is going to dictate how much time we waste and what kind of happens with the deal. And so if we position ourselves in a way to filter them from the get-go, we kind of eliminate those risks. And I'm going to go over some of those ways you can do that. So we're going to go over why it's important to have cash buyers, why it's important to filter them, and why it's important to find them, and how to find them. So cash buyers are important because obviously if for some reason we are not just wholesaling and we are fixing and flipping, we are buying rentals, for some reason our money gets tied up at the last second, but we keep getting all these great deals coming in, but we don't want to lose them because we spent money on marketing, things like that. So it's good to have these cash buyers on hand, so that way you can offer it to them for a cash price, maybe make some quick money on your marketing dollars, and keep those deals coming in for the next time you get some extra capital to buy these properties. So with that being said, that's kind of why cash buyers are important. It's also, you might build a partnership out of it. You might build some great relationships, some great networking. They might have a private money lender they want to share with you. They might be your private money lender. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So we want to think of them as somebody that's on our team and not somebody that's against us. But we also want to make sure that we're adding the right team members to our team. So how do we filter buyers? Oftentimes you get people who lock up a deal, they send it out to their buyers list, and the first person that says, "Oh, I'll take it for 10 grand over the asking price," and you're just so excited to lock that property up, get that extra money. You're like, "Sure thing, let's close." Or you don't even mention the closing date because you're so excited. You get the contract signed, and next thing you know, the deposit hasn't been dropped off at all, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and they're giving you the runaround because they're not actually an end buyer. They're trying to re-wholesale the deal. It's happened more often than you think, and also maybe you get all the way to closing date and then they back out, and you find out that they actually never dropped off the deposit. So here's what I like to do whenever I am marketing for cash buyers. So let's talk about how to find them, and then I'll tell you how to filter them as they come in. So once you market for these cash buyers, one of the ways you can do that is, there's a couple of different ways. One of my favorites is to set up ghost ads. And what ghost ads are essentially advertisements for properties that you don't have under contract, or you might even have some under contract. You post a Craigslist ad saying, "Hey, deeply discounted property in, this area, and you put it up for an amazing price, like it's too good to be true kind of price. And your contact info, you don't put any street names, you don't do anything like that, maybe just a zip code. And whenever you get somebody that calls in, just let them know, hey, listen, that property is sold already. It's already under contract. We're just waiting to update the Craigslist. And they'll say, okay, well, do you come across any of these any other times, or do you have any other deals? Just say, well, we're getting deals like this all the time. So if you don't mind, let's exchange information. I'll get your email address, and we'll send you out the next time we get one. Boom, you're slowly building your cash buyers list that way. Now, some people think that's not ethical. It's not a good way to do business, and I'd agree if you didn't know what you're doing. I agree to the point where if you talk yourself up and then you never actually perform. We're doing this with the intention to provide these people with awesome deals, so that way we can have a solid cash buyers list. So what you can do from there is, if you want to set up the ghost ads, you can also call local realtors in the area and ask them, hey, listen, do you have any cash buyers that you work with who might be interested in off-market properties? If so, my partner and I have a couple properties that we can't keep to ourselves, so we'd like to offload them for cash. Do you have anybody who might be interested? If they have no idea what you're talking about, hang up and call the next one, and call every single realtor in the area until you get as many cash buyers as you want. You can also go on PropStream, and you can go on there and look up the cash transactions. A lot of times they're listed with a real estate agent. You can even turn the filter on so that it was MLS listed only. Find the real estate agent that listed that property, and if it was closed with cash, obviously it was somebody that had the cash to buy, most likely an investor. Call them up, say, hey, listen, do you have anybody who can close cash? I have a property that's off market right now, and we'd love to send it to them. She'll say yeah, or they'll say yeah, and then you can just send them the deal, and if they have somebody, they'll bring it to you. So we got Craigslist, realtors. You can also just pull the cash transactions yourself and skip trace them. You can do it that way using True People Search for free, or you can use a paid service, whatever you want to do. Local real estate meetups is one of my favorite if you're doing this locally. If you're not doing it locally, you can go to usually there's a real estate investors association website for the city that you're virtually wholesaling in. At least there is for mine. So I sign up for that. It's like $10 a month, and I get to post all my deals on there. Cash buyers come to me for it, and it's a really great thing. So Facebook groups with investor pages for the local areas are always great places to pick these things out and look up cash buyers that way. So you can do that. So out of those things right there, that's pretty much all that I do. And just from posting deals, whether I have done ghost ads, but because I actually have deals, I post them and I get a lot of traction on it, and I get all the information I need, and I leave that advertisement up even after it's closed for a little bit, just to keep attracting those people so I can add them to my list. And I would rather have 10 solid buyers as opposed to 100 buyers that are not filtered. So let's talk about how to filter them. When you get a phone call from some of these people, they're going to be asking you questions about the property, and you want to be cautious, because if they're wasting your time, then you obviously don't want to spend time on the phone with them. And the way I do that is I answer all their questions first, and then I say, hey, listen, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? They say, sure. Well, I say, if you guys like this property, you go drive by, you decide that you like it, how soon could you close if we agree on a price? Oh, I can close in 7 to 14 days. Okay, great. My partner usually requires that we do a 14 days or less closing. Okay, great. And so you guys pay all cash, is that right? Oh, no, we actually use a private money lender. Okay, that's perfect. It's pretty much the same thing as cash. We do like hard money, private money, cash, as long as we're able to close quickly. That's pretty much what we're concerned about. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, great. And just to let you know, we're going to be having a walkthrough at this time and date. If you guys want to go check it out, it will be a one-time walkthrough. That way we don't, we make this a hassle-free sale for the sellers, and we want to make sure that we keep it that way. Will that be okay? Will you be able to bring your contractors at that time? Yeah, I can do that. Awesome. Then I add them to my list, because after I put them under contract, we don't put them under contract until we know 100% they're ready to close, because they're not going to get into that property again. I'm not going to let them, because what happens is, this is the way they learn to negotiate, is they go into the contract, they sign it, and then they go into it, and they're like, oh, well, we found all these things that, we didn't see before, and now we need to get it 20 grand lower. We avoid all that by making sure there's no contingencies in the assignment agreement. Also making sure they put a non-refundable deposit down. And I also ask them on the phone call, once they say they like the property and they're ready to move forward, I say, well, how much can you put down? Oh, I can put down like $1,000. Well, actually, my partner and I require about $5,000 for the first time working together. After that, we can do a little bit less, but we want to make sure that you guys are solid, and for that reason, we do require a $5,000 deposit. And right there, you'll see how, serious of a buyer they are, because they're either going to balk at that, or they're going to say that's no problem. And you can do any number. I just said 5,000 for example, but I typically do like 2,500 in my market, or I don't go any lower than 1,000. And the serious buyers that I've worked with, I said 5,000 before, and they have no problem with it. So, because once they're serious and they know that they're going to close, and they know that they have everything they need because they've already seen the property, they've done their numbers, it makes that process so much smoother, because everybody's on the same page. Now, anything can happen. I've done this before where I filtered people and the coronavirus happened. A bunch of my buyers were backing out because of the uncertainty. At the time, I was like, well, you're not buying, you're not backing out. I'm going to take your deposit. I've actually taken some people's deposit, but it might have to come to that, and that's why we get a non-refundable deposit. And we get as much as we can because they're less likely to back out. If they say, I'm only going to put down $500, they're not going to care about $500. Even if they lose it, they're going to make a big deal out of it, but they're not going to care. So those are some solid tips on how to filter cash buyers. I'm very surprised we haven't had any questions or anybody in here. But I got a feeling we get a lot of people who watch afterwards. I've seen to get a lot of people who watch these lives after the fact and usually have a lot of questions. So as always, don't be afraid to put your questions down in the comments section, whether you're on right now or after the fact, because I will answer them. I personally answer each and every one, and I love to answer yours. So I wanted to make this live video to obviously answer any questions live, but also because I find it easier to do the live videos as opposed to making a video, editing it, and all this other stuff, when I can just give you the guys the raw, the real information that you really want. And I think I jam-packed this whole video full of valuable content. So if I did, be sure to smash that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. To those who are already subscribed, I just want to say thank you. But there's a lot of solid information in this video, so I'm going to stay on probably about for another 2 to 3 minutes if we don't get any other questions or any other feedback, and kind of go from there. But man, it is extra windy today. Super, super windy. But the weather's starting to get nice. I got my plants growing. I got an orange tree, a lemon tree, blueberry bushes, raspberry bushes, black raspberry bushes, and I think, a strawberry plant too. I got strawberries growing. So I don't really care for the flowers and stuff, but I really like the plants that it can grow fruit. It's kind of like my side hobby, just because I love fruit. I don't really care for vegetables too much, but I love fruit. So growing your own fruit is kind of cool, and trying to keep the plant alive and learning things and understanding how the plant works and nature doing its thing. It's really cool. So maybe I'll do a video on like my side gigs, my hobbies. But yeah. Say anything you want. Also, if you guys have any content suggestions that you want to see me talk about, it really helps, because then I don't have to come up with things that you guys may or may not want to hear about. And nobody knows better than you all on what you want to hear and what's going on in your business, and kind of the struggles you're going through, so I can answer them. All right, so Elijah said, hey Alex, what do you do when you want to figure out if the seller has any liens on their home? So what you can do is, PropStream is a great tool to use to see anything at a glance. If they're owing anything, sometimes you can go in the county records, like the county assessor's page, and see if they owe taxes. Like my county locally, you can't see that, but in my virtual county, you can actually see how much they owe. Depending if they've owed for a long time, you can't see it. You have to actually request that. But the way you do that is whenever you go to do the title search, the title company will actually tell you how much is owed on the property. And I try to get all that information up front from the seller. Say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, how much do you owe? Okay, you owe X amount of dollars on your mortgage. Is there any other liens that you know about? So that way we can know how much we're taking over, because that just makes sense. And usually they tell me, like, yeah, almost every deal I have, I've never had an issue. The only time I've had an issue is maybe they don't know how much they owe, or maybe they don't know that they owed another kind of lien or something else is attached. But that's what that title search is for. They'll make sure everything's clean for you, and if it's not, there's no big deal. You should have a contract. If you had the contract that I have free for download in my description, you can, in that one it talks about if there's no clear title, then you obviously have the right to back out if you want to, or renegotiate and talk about that. So if it turns out to be something that's a deal breaker for you, you can go back and renegotiate and say, hey, listen, you said you owed this much, but actually we found out through title search that the property you owe around X amount of dollars. And for that reason, we're going to have to get a discount of X amount of dollars because we didn't know that. And at that point, they'll say no or yes. And if they say no, you can say, hey, listen, obviously this lien's not going to go away. It's going to continue to get worse if you don't want to do this. We'd love to make this thing a hassle-free sale for you. So if you don't want to pursue or continue, that's fine. But it'll probably be in the best interest to do it. Just that way you get this lien out of your name, and we can get this headache property off your shoulders. Yeah, that's kind of where being a salesman comes in. But, just being a problem solver at the end of the day is what we're looking for. So it's no big deal. Like when a lien comes up or something, it's not like, oh man, the seller is going to back out now or something. You just got to be transparent with them. Hey, listen, we didn't know this. You didn't know this. The title company let us know. So now everybody's in the know, and we can do something about it. Elijah, does that answer your question? What do you do when you want to figure out if the seller has any liens on their home? If you have a personal contact that can find that stuff out for you, like I have a guy at my title company who I can just email the property. He won't do a title search. He'll just be able to tell me how much is owed on the taxes without doing it. And I can just say, hey, listen, this is the property address. We're wanting to put this under contract. Can you tell me how much is owed in taxes? Because I do a lot of tax lien, code enforcement lien leads. And for that reason, sometimes the liens exceed how much we can get the property for, so it's not worth it. And it's not worth it to put a buyer through, not worth it to put a title search on, waste all this time and money, when I can just say, hey, John, whatever, can you just tell me how much is owed on it, so that way we know if this is a deal or not. And I've sent them like 20 properties, and they give me the answers usually within a week. So, but I do lock it up, say, hey, Mr. Seller, I understand you don't know how much you owe on it, but we're going to, go ahead and move forward and see how much you do owe, and then we'll talk about it then. And you can do it that way. That's a very good question, though. A really good question. Do y'all have any other questions for me before I head out here? So, as far as liens and stuff that's going on with the title search, I don't worry about that stuff too much, because everything after the point of the buyer, finding a buyer, waiting on title work, anything that has to do with title work, the closing process, anything like that, I don't worry at all. I don't have to know the process in and out. I don't have to know how, all that stuff works. I just let that problem, and I let the title company do their thing. Like, they're the professionals on that. Let them be the professionals. Obviously, I have a basic understanding of it, because you need to know how to explain that to the sellers, because a lot of times they don't know how that process works. I didn't know how that process worked until I got into this industry. So just there's a saying that says if you can't explain it to a third grader, you truly don't understand it yourself. If you can't put it in third grade terms, you don't understand it yourself. And for that reason, I apply that to my business, to my life, everything. And when I try to explain that in my videos, you guys are probably way smarter than I am, but I still try to make it at third grade level, because you never know who might hear it and they might not understand something. Everybody understands differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. I probably only understand third grader level, so that's, whatever, but but yeah, the KISS principle, I talked about that in one of my videos. Keep it simple, stupid. And it's something I have to reflect on whenever I'm stressed out or something's going on in my business. I'm like, man, I don't know how to solve this. And I'm like, well, it'll get worked out. There's nothing I can do at this point. I'm just going to let it do what it needs to do. And at the time where I get the answer that I'm looking for, or, something comes up, I get that information that I'm missing, I can do something with that at that time. Like right now on the $70,000 deal, I have a buyer I've closed with before. They're a really solid buyer, and they're closing for obviously $70,000, and they're okay with it. But he's got a kid on the way. He's not responsive, and we're supposed to close this Monday. But I got an extension with the seller, and there was some confusion there. He thought that extension was for him. Even his title company thought that. And we went with his title company. I don't ever usually do that, but I've closed with this guy and his title company before, so I didn't think it would be an issue. But I had to educate them, like, hey, listen, the assignment agreement's between us and the buyer, and the seller, the purchase sale is between us and the seller. And for that reason, if we get an extension, we do that in case our buyer backs out. That's not for the buyer. Our assignment agreement specifically says you have X amount of days before we get to take your deposit. So I'm at the point right now where I can take this guy's deposit. It's $5,000, but I'd rather, much rather make $70,000 than $5,000. And I would hate to ruin this relationship with him because of, he's going through a lot on his side, and I'm trying to be understanding. So I think next Monday is when we're going to make a decision. Like, hey, if this guy has not contacted me back, we're going to move on, take his deposit, because I think we've given him a week, and that's a fair amount of time. But I call him, text him, everything, and it's not normal for him to do that. So I don't know what's going on, but you come across these situations, you where somebody you might have filtered down, before, you might have even done deals with them, and then all of a sudden something happens, things go sideways, and you got to figure it out on the fly. So right now I'm like stressing out, like, should I call him again? Should I text him? I've texted and emailed the title company every single day. They're so annoyed of me, but call till they die or buy. That's my philosophy. And I like to be in the know. So, but until I get that answer, I have a game plan. Monday is going to be our deadline if I don't hear anything today. And so I know this guy will close because he's done this to me in the past before, but you just got to really understand the people you're working with. But yeah, you're going to come across things that stress you out, and you feel like you got to do something about it, but maybe there's nothing you can do. You just got to kind of let it work itself out. Now I want to get my cash buyers into the property to view it. How do I go about that action without telling the sellers? They're the ones who buy in the property. So that's one thing I didn't mention about filtering the buyers, and I'm glad you brought that up. Whenever you're sending your buyers out there, you're letting them know, hey, listen, this is going to be a one-time showing. Bring your contractors if you need to. On top of that, we're letting the seller know that we're going to be sending our contractors out there to view the property. And we let them know we might have several contractors out there because we're trying to get different bids. So if they ask you any questions at all, just let them know you're our personal contractors, and that if they have any questions, to direct them back to us. If you have any questions for the seller, we ask that you do not ask them any questions. We ask that you do not comment about the property because they're in a distressed situation. For that reason, we're able to get these at a deep discount. Do you understand? Once you get their understanding, if they're serious, they've been through this process before, they know how it works, they know not to step on any toes. If you're really, really worried and concerned that they're going to talk to the seller, maybe connect with a realtor who's going to have cash buyers, like I mentioned earlier, and let them know, hey, listen, I got several other buyers who want to see this property along with your buyers. Would it be okay to have you kind of moderate the showing? In exchange, you'll get to meet these cash buyers, add them to your list, and it'll be a win-win for everybody. And then they can be your like personal person to show the properties. Or you can have somebody off a TaskRabbit. I have a whole video on that where you can find somebody to be a moderator, kind of mediate the whole showing. Just let them know. Don't let them ask them any questions. And you just inform the seller, hey, listen, John and Jane are going to be there. John's the person who's representing us to make sure that the contractors, go in there very quickly, do their thing, and then leave. If you have any questions for us, John's not going to have the answer. You need to relay them back to us directly. He's just kind of independent third party. And because you're doing this virtually, or even if you're doing it locally and you're acting as a business, then they're going to understand like this is how you do business. And as long as you're being transparent with them, there's usually no issues. But when you show up with like 10 people and you told them that, hey, listen, I'm going to have our partner come by, and then 10 people come by, they're like, what the heck's going on? So you just want to let them know, even if it is 10 people, hey, listen, we're going to have 10 contractors out there. Well, why are you sending 10 contractors? Because if we went with the same one every time, they'd overcharge us. So we're trying to get the best bid. And typically they don't care. They just want their money. But it's all about positioning and conditioning the seller from the get-go, conditioning your buyers from the get-go. It's like if you were having a rental property, you're going to condition your renters to understand the lease up front. Like, hey, you're responsible for mowing, you're responsible for repairs over X or under X, and here's the number to call within these hours. Because if you don't set those expectations up front, they're going to run wild with that property and you're going to lose money. And you're probably here, so I don't know if I'm still live, but that's a really good question, Elijah. Did I have any other questions? Yep. So I try to do a live once a week, but if it becomes to the point where I get a lot more people viewing my lives as opposed to like my actual videos, I might just do live videos, like the normal topics that I do. And if I get questions throughout the video, that's cool. But I tend to like doing these lives a lot more. Not only is it a lot easier because I don't have to edit it after the fact, but it seems like I get a lot more interaction, a lot more, you guys get a lot more value out of it from the interaction and engagement I get back from you. So if you like these kind of videos, let me know. Because I want to do what's easiest for you guys to understand and get the information that you need. If it's doing it through the lives like this, then that's great. I want to know. If it's through the videos that I sit there and edit and spend time on, a little bit more time and effort on, then let me know that too. Because I will do either. And it's about getting you guys the most valuable content. So, but hey, no problem, Elijah. I'm glad you had those two questions. I hope I was able to answer them and provide some value to you. And anybody who's watching this after the fact, please sure to smash that thumbs up if you got any value from it and you'd like to see some more. Also, comment some content suggestions that you want to see, and I'll personally respond to any questions that you guys have. So just want to say thank you so much for your time on this beautiful Friday. Hope you all have a great and productive weekend, and we'll see you all in the next one.